Hey, Run Try Bike community. Welcome to the 130th episode of our Fireside Chat on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. And this is a very special episode for us. But before we get started with today's show, I want to remind you that you can find the show along with our other shows on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on the Run Try Bike YouTube channel. Our shows include Running Tales with Craig Lewis, Beyond the Finish Line with Joe Harden, Food Fight Friday at the Aid Station with Adam Lee and myself, as well as What's in Your Earbuds with Om Gandhi and Joe Harden. And don't forget the always fun Fiery Embers. We have something for everybody. So be sure to subscribe, rate, and review so that we can keep these amazing guests coming on and providing you with inspiration and motivation from everyday athletes just like yourself, as well as tips from experts in the fields of nutrition, sports psychology, and coaching. Today, we are joined by Kelsey Long and Rebecca Bowman of We Run Long, as well as Becky Croft, known as Coach Croft, over on Instagram and Threads. We Run Long is a community of BIPOC runners looking for accomplices and not just allies. Coach Croft is the connector to the five of us because of a thread she posted a few months ago while the hoopla around Western states was happening. Without waiting any further, let's bring Kelsey, Rebecca, and Becky to our show. Now we got to press all the buttons to get everybody here. Look at that. I think we managed to do it, if I'm not mistaken here. There we go. How's everybody doing today? Kelsey, we'll start with you. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. My name is Kelsey. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm doing really well. It's beautiful here in New Mexico.
For somebody who was like, I don't want to get into this right out of the gate, you jumped right into it, introducing yourself, pronouns and everything. That's awesome. Rebecca, let's go to you next because you are one of the co-founders with Kelsey on the show. How are you doing today and where are you coming from?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. I'm calling in from Portland, Oregon.
Fantastic. And then lastly is Becky Croft, Coach Croft, who is the thread between the five of us because of Threads. Becky, how are you today? Oh, do we have a frozen screen? By the way, everybody, this is a live show, so this is what happens. While Becky gets back to us, we're going to go right to the very first icebreaker question. We're going to start with you, Kelsey. The first question to you, and Rebecca and Becky can think about their answer and make sure that they get it right, is pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
I mean, it's okay. The only thing is, though, is I don't eat meat. So I feel like that pineapple the sweet is supposed to balance like the saltiness of the meat. I don't know if it would work without the meat.
I do pineapple jalapeno, and I've been a vegetarian my whole life.
Okay.
I love the sweet and spicy mix.
Yeah. I'm going to take that as a half a win for Ohm and a half a win for myself.
I will take that half a win. Oh, here we go.
Rebecca, it's your turn. Pineapple on pizza, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah, I don't have strong opinions. I feel like it's something you're supposed to have a strong opinion on, and I'm fine with it, and I'm fine without it.
Another half a win. Becky, you are going to be the tiebreaker in this scenario then. Pineapple on pizza, yes? Yes!
Oh, man.
Yes!
All right, I could save us the extra screen space. I'll just go now.
Well, let's just jump into this right away. Kelsey, this is the first question is going to go to you. You've written that you are looking for accomplices and not allies in this movement for getting more BIPOC runners or BIPOC athletes into running in general. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to be looking for accomplices and not just allies?
Well, when you think about allies, you think about someone who agrees with you, but there may not be any action behind their beliefs. They can say it and other people can think it about them, but there's no action. And so what an accomplice is someone who not only takes action, but also takes accountability. They are willing to be a part of the movement regardless of the outcome. So if it's good for them or if it's bad for them, they're in it no matter what.
Rebecca, when you guys started We Run Long, was that the mindset? Was it, hey, I want to make sure that we're bringing in people who are going to get into the ring, in air quotes, with us as we, try to get more and more BIPOC athletes into the sport of running?
Ooh, I think that's a tough one. I think it was the hope. I think back then it was more a little bit of this delusional idea, and how are two people who don't have a big social media following, aren't known in the industry or the sport, going to convince, say, like a big name brand like Ultra Running to get on board with this. I don't know if that was really the thought process. I think it was just like, let's do this and hope for the best. and then, I think it'll be 3 years this December where we had that first conversation, and it isn't lost on us how quickly, our first sponsor was Gnarly Nutrition. And I laugh now because our old pitch deck was so bad. It was so bad. I would never send that to anybody again.
You got to post it like a behind the scenes. You got to show it.
Yeah, we will. Yeah. Because I think that, I like, what I want people to really take away is, you hear people say it all the time, like, just do it, just go for it. And that does come with a lot of privilege and a lot of access. And I did have access into the outdoor industry because of my job back then, but it is fun to look back on those moments. And so, yeah, to answer your question, I don't know that it was as well thought out at that point. I think it was like, here we go.
Hey, as Rebecca is talking, were you nodding your head in agreement like, yeah, that's exactly who we are too?
Yeah, I absolutely was. I mean, it's just fun to look. Jason and I were looking back on those moments this morning, just like, I can't tell you how many times we look back at our social media and our stuff and go, man, this is what we were posting 2.5 years ago.
It's awful. Like, if you scroll down far enough, you're like, oh my goodness, should we archive any of this stuff? Because it's bad. I want to bring Becky into this conversation because, as I mentioned in the intro, she is the common thread between the five of us having this conversation today. And I don't know, Becky, if you remember, but you posted on Threads while all this stuff was happening with Western States. And I replied to you and I was like, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this if you're willing to have a conversation. What did it feel like to have basically a stranger reach out and say, I want to talk to you about this. I'm interested in what you want to talk about when it comes to Western States, the hoopla surrounding it, and what you're talking about in terms of what's missing from this hoopla that everybody's focused on?
Honestly, I really welcome the conversation because most of the time what I get is obviously pushback on social media. When I throw some sass around, I get those entitled viewpoints and perspectives from the general masses of like, oh, it's fine and you're wrong. But that's the thing, being an Indigenous woman, athlete, coach, like I'm not seen all the time as an expert, even though I do have education and experience to back it up. So when someone says to me, hey, I want to have a conversation, I'm like, yes, let's please do.
I was appreciative of the rawness that you presented to me, but there was one thing you said to me that has stuck with me since that conversation. And so we're talking about the end of June, early July, and it's been so basically 3 months. You asked me a question. You said, look around you and what are you following? What are the accounts that you're following and what are they talking about? And that woke me up because I was like, she's right. Like I'm not following all of the accounts, and I don't know that I'll ever follow all of the accounts, right? There's so many of them, but I'm not following the accounts that would allow me to see what she sees, would allow me to see what Kelsey and Rebecca see. And once I did that, then the tide started to change. And so I'm going to put you on the spot here. What are some accounts that you follow that the rest of us should be following so that we can get a different perspective than what we currently have?
You need to follow some of the more diverse accounts. Native Women Run, RIDC, Renew Earth Running. Obviously, We Run Long. Like, you need to follow Black and brown athletes and movers and shakers in the industry, and not just to like follow different people, but to start really listening to what they're saying and looking at things from a different perspective. And that's one thing about me. I have a different perspective about things sometimes. I, as a Native woman, don't see myself in the running industry. I don't see like elite Native athletes out there. And not that I'm elite, I'm obviously not, but that's something that is one of those big pipe dreams that I keep chasing. What if I could rise to a different level of performance? And I need to see someone doing that to inspire me to reach for different goals. So I am looking for those weak areas and to open those perspectives. Most people won't do that. They just want to live in an echo chamber.
Yeah, I mentioned while we were in the green room that I've been watching the evolution of a black quarterback. And Michael Vick was chatting with Cam Newton, and Cam Newton said, the reason why I started buying cherry chapstick was because of you, Michael Vick. Like, you were using it. And I was like, and Cam Newton saying, I saw you doing it, so I wanted to do that. And I think that's exactly what you're getting at, right? Which is, if I see somebody who looks like me doing these things, then I'm going to be more interested in doing them as well. I want to ask Kelsey this question because Camp We Run Long just occurred, and it's a great follow-up to what Becky just mentioned, which is, when you're at Camp We Run Long, are you hearing that same concept, which is, thank you for hosting this event. I'm getting to see people that look like me participating in these types of athletic endeavors, and I want to be a part of it, and now I want to go tell other people to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think so. I think we definitely heard that at camp. This was the first trail race for some people, the first ultra marathon for some, and they really came away with feeling like they can do it, not and feeling like they belonged. I think that was a huge part of it. Just being authentically yourself. We were there and we were so loud, and I feel like there are times, especially in white places, where you're just meant to be quiet. You're supposed to act a certain way. You're supposed to use your inside voice, but we were outside, so it didn't matter how loud we got. But even in our dining hall that we had, like, it was so loud and it was so fun because that's what family is. Family's loud.
That's absolutely incredible. And it's just really cool to hear that there was a space that you created with Camp Read Run Long. And so I wanted to ask you, like, as somebody who has done other trail races, and you're putting on this camp for people who are going through their first experience in trail running, what kind of differences did you notice? And like, did you kind of like, I guess, like, there must have been like something clicked to me when you said like you were being loud, and you have to be quiet in other places. So I think, like, what kind of things did you see as far as like being the people who were holding space for these athletes? And did you see an evolution in the people from day one to like the end of the camp, and like how they felt, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think you could definitely see a difference between the people who came in and were more quiet, more reserved, because there were some who came in right away, were ready with the hugs, and but there were others who were just like, cool, not that they weren't happy to be there. It's just, it's new to them. I am sometimes very shy and reserved when coming into new spaces, just because I don't know what it's going to be like. But by the end, everyone was just loving on each other and just enjoyed seeing each other and didn't want to leave. But as far as something you had said was, how is it different from other races? I'm a back of the packer. I'm a DFL queen, and I have finally come to terms with that. Like, I'm going to be okay with that. And so that's what this was looking like for me. And I eventually caught up to another runner, one of our runners, and it was her first trail race. And the only reason, she was in great shape, she could do it, she absolutely could have completely smoked me, but it was her first trail race, and she was unsure, not confident about being on trail, especially with the flags, the markers. Am I going the right way? I don't want to get lost. There's wildlife, all these things going through her head. And, me being a back of the packer, I found her, and, we made our way. And I think that was a big difference for me, is I'm normally alone. I don't get to see anyone else out there. But then, we connected, and we were able to talk and get each other through some hard times.
I mean, and I'll turn this over to you, Jason. I do have like a follow-up for Rebecca and Becky, since we're talking about Camp We Run Long as far as like memories from the event. But I just like, I always thought that like nobody ever really remembers, like at the end of the day, nobody's ever going to remember if you were first on the podium or in the back, or like, you got 69th place or 72nd place in like this race in 2017, but they will remember moments like that where you made them feel a certain way. And you'll always remember those feelings. So it's really cool to hear that kind of memory. And I do want to pose the same question to Rebecca and Becky, like starting with you, Rebecca, like, did you have any memorable moments like that you recall a good feeling from Camp We Run Long?
I was really overwhelmed by the number of people that came up to me crying and saying, and also our first night when we had intros at dinner, it happened then too. And the feedback that was given was that it was transformative and life-changing, and that these folks never ever imagined that they could be held in a space in trail running, or maybe ever, where they look around the room and it's people like them. And it was a very emotional weekend, because we all have full-time jobs, all of us, and we do this as volunteer work. And so I think sometimes it gets really stressful, it gets really hard, and sometimes you're going through the motions. And what hit me so hard during camp was I was brought back to, a 5-year ago me that was out on a trail alone, and was like, it'd just be so cool. What if I could like bring people along? And we each have our own story that brought us to camp and this experience. And I think, I'm not sure how other folks felt, but my story just came so in my face, and it made it all that more emotional, because I don't think I could have ever imagined that we would put on something that just far exceeded our dreams about, like, what if we just went for it.
Becky, I'll pose that same question to you about one of your favorite memories or feelings from Camp We Run Long.
So there were a lot of them, but I will say that probably in the race at the first aid station, I actually had written one of the training plans for one of the recipients, and I caught up with them maybe around mile 4 or so, and I stuck with them. So we stopped at the aid station around mile 5 or 6, and we were talking. And this athlete has had a really rough year, and I don't know the athletes really well that I write plans for. I try to get a brief history of their running, and so I can build a proper plan for them. And she initially didn't know like if she was even going to go through with this because it's been such a hard year for her. But I opened up and shared some of my history and what led me to coaching and becoming more vulnerable and sharing my story. And even though they're totally different situations, she understood and it connected us in a different way. And she really appreciated that I shared those pieces with her. And that meant a lot. But she had the most phenomenal day. She ran that race with so much joy. And this is what she needed, was that entire weekend.
That's incredible.
And if you go to Becky's Instagram account, you'll see a picture. I don't know if this is the athlete you're speaking of, but the hug in that picture is powerful. Like,
that's actually
powerful.
Another one of our game changers coaches. That's who Kelsey ran with. But that emotion, those photos that the guys took did a phenomenal job of kind of showing the essence of us.
You'll have to forgive me for a moment. I told you in the green room I get emotional, and I'm looking at 5 faces here of BIPOC athletes, and it's amazing. It is amazing to have a show where 5 BIPOC athletes are talking about the things that they're doing, the hardships that they've gone through. Becky, you and I shared a moment when we talked initially where we kind of kept ourselves hidden as far as who we are for a very long time. I'm a Puerto Rican kid, grew up in the Bronx. Like, the idea of me running in the woods for fun is nuts. Like, it just wouldn't have happened. And here I am racing Ironman, racing 100 milers, racing Cocodona, building a company that talks about this stuff. Like, it's mind boggling. And I just want to thank you all for being here. And I want to talk about something that Rebecca mentioned, which was it being hard. And I want to start with you, Kelsey. Like, when it gets hard, how do you bring it back around to, I can do this, we can do this? Do you have mantras? Do you call Rebecca frantically? Hey, let's talk. I need to get this off my chest. Like, what is it? Like, what is your release? Because this stuff is really, really difficult, especially when the pushback, like Becky said earlier, was, for lack of a better phrase, shut up and run. Like, so how do you come back around to, I'm going to do this again today? Kelsey, I'll put that in your lap first.
I mean, there are 2 different instances where things get hard, on the trail and off the trail. When we're off the trail, I think I internalize and it's hard for me to get out of it, but somehow Rebecca knows and she reaches out, and anything that we've had to do with our organization, she's kind of taken it, gone the extra mile, handled the load while I'm dealing with things. So that's really helpful. When I am on the trail, on the road, out running, that's when I call Coach. Yeah. She's gotten a couple crying messages or calls.
Is the answer, Becky, take in more calories? You probably need to eat something.
Let's see. Specifically in Boston, it was like, get some electrolytes in your body.
Yeah.
But I bring her back to her why, especially for Boston, because she came to me and told me, hey, I have this opportunity. We can't disclose it yet, but this is where my training needs to go. And I said, okay, let's do it. So she was in a very specific cycle for that. And then when race day came around, it was a hard, humid day. And so she called me, and that's where I go, it's okay. Remember, like, you aren't out there to try to win this race. You are doing this on behalf of Native women everywhere, on our stolen sisters. There is a bigger why here. And this is where you've got to come back to it and remember that, because that's going to keep you going. And also probably take some Gatorade on the course.
Rebecca, we'll put this question to you. Same thing. Like, when things get hard, especially as you're trying to progress forward and getting more recognition before we run long and you're feeling the pushback from the community and you know, I'll just be blunt about it. The fucking gatekeepers, like I can't stand it. I hate it. It pisses me off more than just about anything in this world. Like, you're not fast enough to be called a runner. You're not strong enough to be called this. You're not whatever. And that constantly gets thrown around and it makes people feel less than. Like, when it gets hard in those kinds of scenarios, like, what's your outlet? How do you bring yourself back to say, no, we can do this and we're going to do this?
This is an interesting question personally, because this year was one of the more harder years for me. And when I think about, you know, like when you're talking about pushback in the industry, honestly, that at this point in time feels easy. I'm like ready. I'm like, I feel like I am comfortable enough in my own skin to go have those conversations, or, you know, what somebody else might call brave. I think the hardest part about this year was the hardest fight I was fighting was with myself. And I think a lot of times, if you're in a leadership position like we all are, even though we have each other, I think sometimes what we don't talk enough about is how isolating it can feel. And imposter syndrome, you know, comes up, and that, for many reasons I won't get into, hit me so hard with the start of 2024. And so I just kept thinking about the community. And I like, when you look at those pictures, it's still so emotional because these people are my heroes. And what's so funny is so many of them don't believe it. You know, they're like, no, but you're doing blah, blah, blah. Or like, I want to be the leader that you are. And I just like, it's funny because I'm like, no, like, you are my heroes. Like, you know, Kelsey and Becky too. And like, that's what, so in that sense, it, I don't know, for me, it feels easy to show up and like, I'm ready to burn, not only just like open doors open or hold doors open for people like us, but like burn them to the ground and then be like, we're coming through.
Yeah.
I think that just also comes from like how I was raised and my privilege. But I will say, like, what brought me back, actually, it took us being at camp, because I showed up to camp very lost, and just having gone to hell and back this year. And that camp fully brought me back to me, because I was like, oh my God, how could I forget that? Like, I see my purpose as caring for the actual caretakers of this world. You know, so many of them, like, you know, Kelsey, are advocates, or activists, or Becky, coaches and caretakers, and we had social workers and nurses. And like, I am so blown away. I don't do that type of work, but I see myself as somebody who can care for those people, because I'm like, if I don't, who else is going to? I know they're not, you know? So yeah.
How amazing is it to have people like Kelsey and Becky that you can lean on? And before you answer, I'll give you an example. You mentioned imposter syndrome, and I raised my hand, and I will tell you this: last week, it was awful. I was like, oh my goodness, we're not doing enough. We're not well known enough. We're not getting enough attention. We're not doing this. Like, everything was awful. And the group thread between Lori, Ohm, and myself, you know, I start out with this, the sky is falling, right? And Ohm and Lori are responding. And by the end, I'm like, you know what? I can fly to the top of this mountain now. I don't even need to run up to the top of this mountain. So what's the group thread like between the three of you? Or when you guys are down and feeling like the support comes in, there's got to be some, yeah, I'm vulnerable about this too. And then there's got to be some commentary. Like, is that something that's super important to you to know that you've got Becky and Kelsey there on your team as well?
Yeah, I will be honest, I'm really bad about letting people in. I have felt alone most of my life because I do that to myself. And Kelsey and Becky are some of the very few, if maybe only, people outside of my partner that I allow that vulnerability, and I allow them to care for me. And it's still very hard, but they do it. And like, even Becky, I think it was at the finish line, came up next to me, and I was like crying. I was like watching everything and trying to take video. And she just like said all of these kind, very loving words to me. And it was hard to receive. Like I felt every part of me being like, no, not me, them. But she was like, no, right now, it's you and me, you. And like that, I'm going to get emotional again thinking about it, because at some point you've got to let your community hold you too.
Well, we're here for you too if you need an extra 2 friends to help support you, that's for sure. So I want to go to Kelsey with this question, and allow Rebecca and Becky to think about it. What does long comma Kelsey mean? That's your Instagram handle. What does the long comma mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Legally Blonde?
Probably, but I'm also 50 years old. My memory don't work so well. Okay.
When she first gets to Harvard and they ask her what her name is, she says Woods, L. That's it.
Man, I was trying, and here I was sitting there, tagging you guys, because I do this social media, tagging you in posts and trying to figure it out. Like, what is this? Like, I'm trying to read them like 5 different ways.
I was so ready for something so poignant. I was getting my tissues out.
I was ready for something really deep. I'm not going to lie, but that is great.
I love it. That's fantastic.
I love
Rebecca,
it.
Grounding Climbs comes from what movie at this point, I guess?
Oh, that's, this is also a fun one because of timing. So once upon a time, I mentioned 5 years ago, the idea of We Run Long was called Grounding Trails, and it was supposed to be under the umbrella of Grounding Climbs, which is for lack of better description, brand that I used to have. And that is it. The handle's going away soon because there's something else coming.
Ooh. Anything we can probe into? Any pre-announcement announcements here?
It's called Floración, which is to bloom or flowering season in Spanish. And it's, it's just more about just really what we did at camp is inviting people to show up as they are. We're going to celebrate you right now, today, not this version you dream of being or think I'm enough when I get here. It's like, no, you're here now. So that's a little snippet, I guess.
Awesome. And Becky, I presume Coach Croft is because you became a running coach, but were you always the person who was in that position that you kind of knew you always wanted to be a coach when you got into running? You wanted to help others. Is that kind of what the deal is?
No, not at all. Actually, so my business is Hustle, Run, Thrive, but it actually started out as Hustle, Eat, Thrive. And I had a family member who was going to do like nutrition, that piece of it, and then that fell apart. So it evolved. But running for me was initially like a weight loss. I wanted to run a 5K. Somehow running has become my entire identity. But it's really what served me and kept me alive through the battle with endometriosis, eventually the hysterectomy. And around the time that I was pursuing coaching, our house burned down. And so I just kind of threw myself into it. And I was like, I don't even know if I can do this. And this, talking about imposter syndrome, I've absolutely felt it. I will tell you all, it is a colonial construct. So don't let it hold you back anymore. But it really is my purpose. Making these connections, forming these relationships, bonding with people that are absolutely phenomenal, and that running connects us. But then once we meet through running, we really discover how connected we are. So it's fully evolved into so much more. But yeah, just for the simplicity of it, I was like Coach Croft.
Yeah, I mean, running does connect us all, but I think that to use a running phrase, you got to take the next step, which is actually talk to each other, and go enjoy that post-run coffee, breakfast burrito, meal, go to the camp We Run Long, and get to know each other. And then I think running goes to another level for all of us, for me specifically. This weekend, I'm getting on a plane to fly to Salt Lake City to pace Ohm at Moab 240. And again, if you would have asked that Puerto Rican kid, would you be going to Moab 240 to run 50, 60 miles over the course of how many ever hours? The answer would have been like, fuck no. Like, why would I do that? That sounds stupid. That's ridiculous. But getting to know Ohm and having him ask me to be a part of his crew team for this event in which he's going to be crossing the finish line of the Triple Crown 200s, I was like, yeah, of course. Why would I not do this? And we as business partners got to experience something that we probably wouldn't experience in a company meeting because we were out on the trail and we were going 50 plus miles at Tahoe for 20 hours or whatever it is. And now we're going to do it again. And I think that is what people need to do when they go to a run club or they go to a camp we run long scenario, is get to know the people around you and connect with them on a level that's, not just surface level, because there's so many cool people doing so much cool shit that if you only just looked at their paces or their distances, you would miss so much about that person.
And I love seeing endurance sports used as a conduit. I mean, it's our ethos too, like seeing endurance sports used as a conduit to make these human connections and realize that there's so much more to us. Like, having these jokes about pineapple on pizza and like talking about like, man, I thought your handle was going to be something like elaborate, but it was just like Legally Blonde, which is great. Like it's just like we have musical tastes. Like it's cool to like connect on those levels. And that actually brings up a question before I turn it over to all of you to talk about where people can find you. And that is starting with you, Becky. Like one of the things Jason and I always talk about in the midst of like our struggles, because he had the imposter syndrome last week. I probably had it the week before. We alternate, we take shifts on it. But
you're a smoothly run company, as you could tell.
Yeah. And so one of the things Jason always emphasizes is that because this journey is tough, you're taking so many, like you're going through so many small battles every single day. You have to find a way to have fun with it too, and like enjoy the journey. And I have to ask you, like, how do you take the time, starting with you, Becky, to have like fun with it and find the fun moments or the little moments to make this thing enjoyable?
For me, it is connecting with community. I'm a Chi running instructor. I'm certified through RRCA. I'm a Game Changers coach and mentor. So I have communities, and then my Renew Earth running community. I've kind of adopted We Run Long as my babies. So I have all these different connections, but when I go spend time with these people in person and get to connect with them and share those vulnerable stories or just laugh with them, it recharges my battery and it refuels my mission.
I'm definitely the same way. Having these interviews definitely recharges me, running this business, and helps me realize the importance of doing what we do, and like also just these fun conversations. So I'll turn it over to you, Kelsey.
I mean, for me, it's community as well. Mine is not around me as much. I live in a place where there aren't a whole lot of people who do what I do. So I travel a lot. I'm traveling right now. But I think my closest community is in Northwest Arkansas with the Trail Sisters. And I have some friends there. A friend I crewed at Western States. And so just being back there, being with community helps. And, they're 4 hours away. So if I really need something, 4-hour drive up to Northwest Arkansas. But it's also really nice to get away and see parts of the country that I haven't seen otherwise. And always love Portland. Love going back to Portland.
Turn it over to you, Rebecca.
The question was, how do we have fun with it? Or is that right? I think some of my very favorite parts of it all is is getting to surprise the community and like make them feel special. So like when we arrived at camp, we knew that Ultra had put together these insane swag bags. Like I still am like, I showed a friend the other night and she was like, wait, what? Like, you don't get this unless you're like a elite athlete. And I just remember that moment where we were putting everyone's things into each of their bags, and like that lights me up. That makes it so fun because I'm just like, I want you to feel like we rolled out the red carpet for you, and I want you to feel like surprised and just like so special. And that anytime we've gotten like year one, Becky was able to get shoes for everybody, and then we had some other goodies. So even like that, like anytime we get to like, you know, just surprise the community or make them feel cared for is like top moment for me.
Can I answer the question, Om?
Only if you insist.
Yeah, thanks. So one of the things that I love to do is help others have fun by embarrassing my own self, in all honesty. So, you know, when Threads first got started, Run Dan Run would put out their like finish line dance party. And I was like, yeah, like let's have a finish line dance party. Like I'd run 5 miles and dance in front of the, you know, record the video for 5-10 seconds and post it to let people know, like, look, you can get hung up on pace and distance and all RPE and all of these things. You can absolutely go that path. You could also have fun while you're on that path, and wanted to let them know that this is a way to do it. And another story I'll share is I was at Ironman Louisville 2016, I think was the year. And we're standing in line. It's a long line to get into the water. It's like a mile long and you move like a half an inch every minute. Like it's just takes forever to get in the water. And so the anxiety builds up, the anxiety builds up, the anxiety builds up. And I was with a friend. It was her first Ironman and I could see her face. It just looked frightened beyond belief. And I stood there for a second and I just put on this like relief face, like, ugh. And she's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm peeing in my wetsuit right now. And it broke, like her laughter came out and like everything set the tone for her for the rest of the day. Cause she was like, that's what I needed. And so look, for listeners or for you watching this, like these sports are hard. So you need to go and find a way to have fun with it. It might be recording a finish line dance party, pee in your wetsuit. I didn't do something, right? That's going to make it enjoyable so that you're like, I had a good time. I'll come back to it. Now, when you come back to it, it's going to be hard again. Your muscles are going to ache. You're going to be out of breath. Your heart's going to be pounding. Sure. But if you have fun with it and you're laughing and you're smiling, it's going to make it all worth it in the end.
I will, you know, with you, Jason, I will never forget how you were with me for 47 of the 50 miles. And then you saw that sign going up to the ski lift. It was the last 5 miles of Tahoe 200. He was pacing me the last 50 and it's starting to get dark. You can see the town and we're like tucking the corner and there's like an arrow and it's like, and it's pointing straight up and it's going like pointing straight up at like a ski lift or whatever. And the look on Jason's face was probably the funniest thing I've ever seen. He was about to walk down that hill and say, you finished the race yourself, until we realized there was
be honest, dude. Like, it's okay to be honest. We come out of the woods. The chairlift is there with a sign with an arrow pointing straight up the chairlift to go to the top of the mountain. And I looked at him and I was like, I'm not fucking doing this anymore. You're on your own. I am going to make a left turn because I can see the finish line from here. And I'll wait for you at the end, but I'm not going back up this fucking mountain. Like, I am done. Absolutely done. And
it
we
was
take like 5 or 10 steps, and it turns out that the arrow was pointing you to the trail that goes to the left. But I was absolutely 100% not going back up another mountain. Yeah, 0. Not happening.
Never gets old. In hindsight.
Rebecca, we've got you at the top of the screen. So where can we find We Run Long on the interwebs? Where can we find you? And then we'll ask Kelsey and Becky for their information as well.
Yes, please find us at We Run Long on Instagram. And we don't have a website currently, but everything happens over on Instagram. So definitely check that out. And then You can find me at Grounding Climbs, or my website is groundingclimbs.com.
Kelsey, how about you?
I am on most platforms, long comma Kelsey, like Woods comma L.
That is never going to leave my brain for the rest of my life.
No,
100%.
it's burned into my brain now.
I mean,
When
that's how you're gonna introduce yourselves now.
we're in the middle of Shea Mountain climbing next week, this coming week. We're busting that out because that's going to be one of the humorous
I'm
parts.
long comma ohm.
And Becky, where can we find you?
So on most of the platforms, Instagram is where I am most active, but Instagram, Facebook, and Threads, where I throw a lot of sass, is at Coach Croft. And then it will also lead to my website, and my other profile on Instagram is at hustle.run.thrive. And that's mostly just products. And sometimes I revive the page. Sometimes it sits for a while.
Awesome. So,
by the way, Jason, I don't know if your pun was intentional earlier, but you said Becky was the common thread between us.
Yeah, that was intentional. I've got half a brain, dude. Come on.
I should have known.
All right. So before we let you guys go, we always have some fun. And for me, fun means food. And so we're going to launch into our rapid fire food questions, but you don't have to, spit it out right away. If you've got something, if you need to think about it, please feel free. So Becky, you're at the top of the screen. We're going to start with you. Oreos. Are you a fan of the old school Oreo? Are you a double stuff? Do you go with the cracker called the Oreo Thin, or do you go with the devil dog known as the Oreo Cakester?
I honestly don't love Oreos, but if I'm going to eat them like an original, and I really just want the middle.
Kelsey, over to you. Which type of Oreo and how are you eating it? If you're eating it at all, that is.
Oh, okay. So I like the original. I don't like the stuff in the middle, but I'll
You can borrow Becky's.
You can just give that to me.
Yeah. I like the chocolate on the sides. When I drank dairy milk, it was so good to dip them in milk, but I don't like plant-based milk and Oreos.
Interesting. Nice take. I like it. Rebecca, over to you.
Yeah, definitely double stuffed. And anytime, anywhere, any drink. Doesn't matter.
People.
I don't discriminate.
My sister just told me that there are like Coke Zero Oreos.
Yes.
And she has them. I haven't tasted them yet, but I guess they do kind of taste like Coke Zero.
I did try the Trolls ones because they had the Pop Rocks in the middle.
And thumbs up or thumbs down?
They were fun.
We had Jason Fitzgerald on here a couple of weeks ago, and he told me the way to eat an Oreo, which blew my mind, was throw one into the milk itself and eat the rest, dunking and doing whatever you got to do. And then this way, when you're done and you drink the rest of the milk, you get like this Oreo rush, like a cookies and cream type of ice cream feeling, which I thought was original and not something I will do because I eat them like aspirin. I just throw them in and chew them up.
Oh, man. Oreos.
Rebecca, licorice. Are you a fan of licorice? And if so, red or black?
Only red. Only red.
Only red.
You could not pay me to eat the black licorice.
So Sambuca and the anise flavor is totally out.
Yeah.
Becky's shaking her head no. So black licorice, fennel, anise.
No black licorice. Red, or I like some of the sour ones or the ones that are filled. But yeah, no black. Mm-mm.
Kelsey's thinking now. Kelsey?
Well, I don't know if I've ever seen these non-red black licorice.
Kelsey needs some new licorice.
We got to go find a licorice sponsor for the next camp we run on.
But I'm red.
There you go.
We actually need Flamin' Hot Cheetos to be our primary sponsor.
There you go.
I've been speaking it into existence all year.
Yeah, that's it. Manifestation is key. You got to speak it into existence for sure.
Cheetos, if you're listening.
All right, Kelsey, we have you at the top of the screen. Peeps. Are Peeps a real candy or snack, or are they just marshmallow covered in gold glitter dust? That's all I need to hear.
I don't know. I mean, they're too sweet. Like who eats it as a snack?
I don't know. Look, they're still in business. They're a terrible thing, and they're still around, which means people are eating them, right?
Jason, tell her about peep jousting.
Yeah, so we were told.
I guess it's a candy. I would say it's a candy, but not one that I like.
We were told that one way to eat them is to put toothpicks in their beaks and put them into the microwave for like 10 seconds, and as they spin, they blow up, and so they end up like jousting with their toothpick noses.
Oh my god!
If you're wondering how they're still in business.
Yeah.
I think doorstop is the other use.
Yeah. We were also told to eat them stale. And my reaction was, so you want me to take something that's terrible, make it worse, and somehow it's going to taste better?
I need to find that video. Someone actually sent him a stale peep, and he ate it on Run Try Bike's channel.
It's terrible. It's terrible. Becky,
Gross.
Halloween's coming up. Candy corn. Is candy corn a real candy, or is it earwax covered in sugar?
It's just earwax. I want no part of it. I don't even like. My husband will mix it with peanuts, and it like tastes like a payday, and I'm still like, no, it's terrible.
Wait a minute. How can candy corn and peanuts taste like a payday? There's no peanut butter in there.
Mix them, try them.
I'm going to mix them and then use my arm to sweep it across the table and into the garbage. Any fans, Kelsey or Rebecca, fans of candy corn, or thumbs down?
Thumbs down.
Oh, Rebecca's a fan.
Yeah.
You're keeping Brock's in business then. You're out there buying all the candy corn. Are you the kind of person that gives it out on Halloween, or are you hoarding it for yourself?
No, because I think like if you give it out, people hate you. So I'll just eat it. It's fine.
There you go. Do you like circus peanuts, or are those just nothing more than the Amazon stuffing covered in orange paint?
Wait, what are they?
Circus peanuts? Have you? They're sold right next to the candy corn. Like you can't miss it.
I don't know. I don't know if I know
Back
it.
into your childhood for a moment.
Yeah,
But that like I went. Yeah.
They're awful. It's styrofoam spray painted orange. Like again, another thing that I have no idea who's buying this crap. Maybe grandma still, and it's still around. It's unbelievable. Next time you go to a pharmacy, go to buy candy corn. Look next to the package. You can probably see it.
I think I don't know is a good answer. I think it's better not to know something.
I wouldn't try it. Kelsey, creamy or crunchy peanut butter?
Creamy.
How do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Do you put peanut butter on one side, jelly on the other, smash them together, or do you put peanut butter on one side, jelly on the same side, and then put it over the top?
That's messy. What I do is I take 3 pieces of bread, toast one of them, and then peanut butter on non-toasted, jelly on toasted, and then on the other side of toasted, peanut butter, and then the non-toasted jelly, and stick them all together, because then you get a little crunch.
So you're basically making a PB&J BLT. Or maybe like a club sandwich. I guess more like a club sandwich.
Yeah.
Becky, how are you making it?
I toast both of my pieces of bread and peanut butter on one side, jelly on the other. I don't like it non-toasted because then it just gums up in your mouth.
And Rebecca, what's your go-to way for making a PB&J?
I have never really given this much thought. So
we ask the hard-hitting questions here.
I do peanut butter on one side and jelly on the other, and that was like my primary food source last year when, like being in the outdoor industry doesn't pay super great. So I was like, peanut butter and jelly fits the budget, and you're hitting, a decent amount of the food groups.
So after you make it, are you the type of person that just eats the whole thing? Do you cut it into 2 rectangles, 2 triangles, 4 squares, or 4 triangles?
Yeah, I'm just eating it, whole thing.
Kelsey?
Same, just eat it.
And Becky, you're nodding yes?
That's too labor intensive to cut.
Yeah.
See, I cut it into 4 triangles. 1, because my mother did it for me, but 2, it makes me feel fancy. It's like eating PB&J tapas, right? You get a little bit, you put your pinky out, you got your milk, and you're just eating the PB&J tapas with your pinky out. It's fancy stuff. We were told once that they cut it into a rectangle. Shannon Mick of B Short Run Ultra, she cuts it into a triangle and then she turns it and eats it like corn on the cob so that she holds on to the crusts and doesn't get her fingers messy. Blown away. I love how people eat, whatever reasoning, it's awesome. All right, Rebecca, we got you at the top. Red velvet cake. Is red velvet a real flavor, or is it just that face says it all?
No.
Or is it just chocolate cake dressed up to go to the prom?
Yeah, it's trash, because I will tell you, my favorite cake is strawberry cake. It's what I want every year for my birthday. And everybody, not anymore, but used to just get me red velvet. And I was like, did I stutter? Like, what? And so like, it's so funny you asked, because like I have very strong negative feelings toward red velvet cake.
Wow.
I mean, look, if somebody put it on a plate in front of me, I'm not going to say no to it, but I am not spending an extra $7 for red food dye. It's chocolate cake. Stop. Either one of you, Kelsey or Becky, giving a thumbs up to red velvet cake as a flavor?
I love it.
Yes.
Make me
Okay.
go fancy.
What just happened?
Your fireworks went off.
That was so cool.
Is that a MacBook thing, or?
It used to.
Yeah, it used to do hearts too, but we ran out of love, I guess.
We posed this question to just about everybody on this show, and we had Liza LaPierre and Maggie Guterl on the show, and Maggie was like, hell no, da 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 da. And Liza was like, that was my wedding cake flavor. I was like, well, okay. Next question.
Go's Health had the best reaction to it.
He really did. Like, it's on our YouTube shorts. Go check out Adam Ruska and Red Velvet Cake response. You will laugh for about 45 seconds because that's what we did. Kelsey, favorite ice cream flavor is?
Rocky Road.
Simple and sweet. Rebecca, favorite ice cream flavor is?
It's actually local here to Portland, but it's a peanut butter brittle.
Tillamook?
No, Kate's ice cream.
And Becky, your favorite ice cream flavor is?
I'm generally like a caramel chocolate brownie kind of girl.
Fantastic. That's awesome. So while we have you here, your favorite candy or candy bar is?
I love sour candies, like gummy worms, gummy bears, things like that. Any sour candy.
Sour Patch Kids.
What's that?
Sour Patch Kids.
Sour Patch Kids are fine. Sour strips are actually one of my go-to fueling strategies for the gym and for short runs.
Have you had Nerd Clusters yet?
I have. I like them.
Me
but
too.
I'm like a solid candy, like sour candy girl.
Yeah. Kelsey, favorite candy or candy bar is?
A Mr. Goodbar.
Ooh, taking it old school there. Not an answer you get very often. Rebecca, you're in the answer to that question for you. Favorite candy or candy bar is?
Ooh. I really like the sour belts. Is that what they're called? Yeah.
Very good. You like that sour, tangy kind of flavor. All right. We have you on the top. This is the last question before we let you all go back to your training and dinner and everything else. Rebecca, brownies or a tray of brownies is on the table. Do you go to the corner and grab the edge that has a little bit of hard crust to it and a little ooey gooey towards the middle, or do you go towards the middle piece and go straight for ooey gooey?
Yeah, definitely the edge.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Becky, your response is?
Absolutely the middle. I don't want the crusty side. And I prefer them to be like fresh out of the oven warm.
And Kelsey, you're going which direction?
I would have the crust, but funny story about brownies. At camp, one of our last night for dessert, they made brownies. And actually during camp, I like to eat vegan, sometimes vegetarian, but prefer vegan. And so they had that at camp, which was really great that I could stick to that. And that last night, I couldn't anymore because of this brownie, and it was amazing.
They were so good.
They were so good.
Before we let you guys go, looking at some of the comments on Instagram, JGIB_20 says that Rebecca is my spirit Oreo. Oreos on lactose-free milk from Candice Gonzo. There are some mind-blowing responses in here, and somebody, JGib_20, seems to like Peeps because there's the bird in there, or maybe I don't know, but there's
That's
birds.
Jason.
Yeah.
So Kelsey, Rebecca, Becky, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for doing what you do to bring attention to BIPOC runners. Thank you for being forceful in your statements that you are looking for accomplices and not just allies. I think that's a really important delineation for people to understand that if you're going to get into this fight, it's cool to be a corner man, but it's better to be in the ring with the rest of us, and making waves and not being humble about it. Talk about these things, bring these things to people's attentions, because the more we speak, the more we do, the better it is for everybody. Thank you so much to our audience for being here and participating in the conversation. This will be on our website in a couple of days on Friday, as well as our YouTube channel. And next Wednesday, October 16th, it'll be available via Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. Rebecca, Kelsey, Becky, and Ohm, thank you guys so much for a wonderful conversation, and we'll see you on the interwebs.